What is up? The finals are done. We got to look ahead to a draft. We got to look ahead to free agency. And you know what, guys? We can start talking Raptors again. It's been a minute since we got to talk Raptors.
1 second, man. Jason Tatum was the Finals MVP. You got robbed, all right? Shame on you, voters. Shame on you.
That was record time.
You like Jason Tatum?
I do.
MVP?
I think he's gonna win Finals. Okay, well, are we getting into this?
Let's get into it. Let's do it.
I'm going with
Blended.
Boston to win the series.
There's no way in hell that the writers will allow Jaylen Brown to get a second MVP trophy within weeks for this team that has been led by the two of them together. I mean, look, unless Brown completely outperforms him.
The 2024 Bill Russell Finals MVP goes to Jaylen Brown.
FanDuel took that market off the board because everybody knew Fab was going to yell that very quickly. Okay, let's talk some Raptors. They got pick 19 in the first round. They got the first pick of the second round.
Draft being done on two separate
Yeah, two separate nights is nice.
Fancy.
What does a good draft look like for the Raptors? What are we expecting?
Best player available. Best player available. You traded Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, two forward types that they love. Those are the kind of players they've been kind of drafting and assembling for years. You traded them. Now you need guys like that back. So ideally, the best player available does happen to fit that prototype. But I think the Raptors are in no position to kind of nitpick. I understand you have Scotty Barnes, Manuel Quickley is probably going to be a big cog in the future. But you need to get the best guy. And even if he's a project, even if you swing and miss, you're rapping your boy Bruno Caboclo earlier.
Yeah, look, a lot of swing and misses. It happens. Everyone does it.
Especially outside of the top, even outside of the top five.
A team devoid of talent across the board. You're just trying to add. You're just trying to add guys. I think they need to swing for the fences, and ideally, he fits a forward type position.
The irony was that once they traded OG and Pascal,
Yeah.
that was the type of player they were going to have to then go get.
I'm still anti-trading OG because he fits. He's also a free agent. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, those are the type.
I agree. Best player available. You have to swing for the fences at this point because if you're looking at you compared to the rest of the league as the Raptors, you don't have nearly as much talent as a majority of the other teams. So you have to try to unearth some type of, home run swing, I think, because you need to upgrade your talent.
But does the home run swing have to match Scotty Barnes?
That's a good question.
Well, Scotty Barnes is young enough that he should be prominent for a long time. So even if this player at 19 takes a few years to develop into what you hope they might be, that's still a reasonable timeline.
I don't think so at all because you said it at 19. You're not getting you're a second best player in a championship team at pick 19. You're getting hopefully a rotation guy. So if you're a rotation guy, you have to fit amongst everything. I think if you're a top 5 pick, then it's we need to try to see if our parts fit. But when you're picking at 19, you just want somebody who can get in your rotation.
But are you trying to pick a 22-year-old junior or senior from college?
Connect where you at? 23 years old.
They're going top 10.
I know.
Or are you trying to pick a guy who's 18 or 19 and hopefully they have some more upside?
Yeah, I think that's part of the question right now. It's when's Raptors championship window?
5 years from now.
Right? So
Pick a
I mean,
kid.
I think the players will determine that, right?
Yeah.
Based on the talent that you accrue, and you did your crack staff went back in history and did a bunch of research.
we did some looking.
But Raptors have had a history of drafting some, really low floor, high ceiling types like Pascal Siakam out of I believe New Mexico State. You got OG Anunoby at Indiana who was hurt come draft time. So they've been able to create a lot of good value late in the draft.
But
so maybe they can do it again.
As a philosophy, don't you have to pick upside at pick 18 or 19, or pick 19? You have to draft an upside guy.
Upside's interesting, right? Is it olds or is it just based on youth? So if he's young, then that's an
okay, let's
pick.
use last year's example. If you're the Raptors and a Jaime Jaquez type guy is there, the Raptors you don't need that right now. That's more for if you're a playoff team who's trying to fill in. I know he's a good player.
It's
And you're trying to
he's 21,
Sure, I just meant an older guy, a 22-year-old.
Okay, sure. But even then, 22. So your title window, let's say it's within the next 8 years. It's an interesting question, right? I think to me, who do you think is going to be the best player? Overall in their future. That is the baseline which I think you go at this. You attack this that way.
I just think also it's good to set the tone that we talk about swing for the fences, high risk, high reward, deep in the draft. I don't think we realize how many misses there are relative to the hits. We all remember the Nikola Jokic's, we all remember the Draymond Greens, all the big wins, right? It doesn't happen all that often, man. It's really hard to hit it right. So I agree with you. I think the Raptors are supposed to take a big swing here. I was looking more into what type of player builds or what type of position. What position do players deep in the draft usually hit the big home run? Like, for example, you're not gonna find any like score first guard, top level shooting guy who's gonna lead your offense. Typically,
Is this why you were talking about Michael Redd before we started? Was that where that conversation was?
Michael Redd technically is still not even like a playmaker, right? He was a scorer, pure scorer, right? So even him, there's flaws to how he fit as a Team USA type of player, right? So one point I'm trying to say is like, I'm trying to set the expectations for anybody who's like looking at the deep pool of players available in the second round. You're not gonna find your leading scorer in the second round. You're probably going to find a ceiling Draymond Green, a ceiling center, a ceiling kind of like 3-and-D kind of guy. That's probably what you're going to find.
Well, so I think you're also kind of hinting at maybe it's easier to find bigs that late, and that's a good transition to Edey. I know it's not really what the Raptors need, but Edey's a guy who could be, I know all of your bets on him going as a lottery pick
Canadian.
say otherwise, but like, I don't know, if you're saying get the best player and someone like Edey is there at 19.
He won't make it to 19.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
I think he'll be gone by then.
Jonathan Givony just, I think he hinted at Memphis potentially taking it if Jonathan Klingen's off the board. Yeah, like you're talking second round. We're talking like late first. Like somewhere, this draft is not top heavy, right? Like, so it's going to be a lot of dudes that you're going to have to talk yourself into. Yeah, I mean, if Edey's there, you probably take him. Like, I don't
for
know
sure.
Raptors
At 19?
need-
Yeah, I think for sure.
Just based on
He's
value.
the second best center in this entire draft.
Yeah, based on value.
It's a precarious situation for the Raptors because this is really their only avenue right now to significantly upgrade their talent base, and they're picking 19th when traditionally teams who pick 19th are playoff
good
teams,
teams,
right?
yeah.
It's Indy's pick.
Well,
so,
they lost their pick.
well,
That's how it
this
goes.
is where we're at, man.
That's what people wanted, apparently.
Like, I'll set the tone here. Let me show you. Okay, in this century, all right, the best 19th overall picks in the draft. Tobias Harris is probably the best one.
You're happy if you're
Free agent.
You're happy if you're getting Tobias Harris.
John Collins, Zach Randolph back in 2001.
Randolph.
Oh, Zebo
Randolph.
is
Yeah,
the
by
best player.
far,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just saying it's so far back, kind of tough.
So you're
right?
saying the Raps could get a Zebo type player
What
at
did that be
19?
Oh, where he
But-
comes from, bullies get
But
bullied.
what I'm trying to say, yeah, exactly. What I'm trying to say
But
is,
Zebo
look at those three
also
names.
fell because, like, I don't know.
He's
He
got-
was a
yeah,
beast of Michigan
off-court.
State. He had
Yeah.
off-court stuff even back then.
What I'm trying to say though is like at the 19th pick, everybody's gonna dream big and they're gonna look back and say, "Oh, well, you could have got this guy at pick
Yeah.
42. You could have got Giannis,
Desmond
but
Bane,
you
yeah.
could have got all these guys."
Yeah.
Look, if it was that easy, everybody would get them at pick 11, pick
Yeah.
12, much earlier. But I just want to show you the ceiling. Tobias Harris, pick 19. That's
Free
kind of.
agent.
Hey, man, you're thrilled. If you're the Raptors, you're thrilled if
Yeah.
you're getting Tobias Harris in this
saying,
draft at pick
I'm just
19.
saying.
He gets
right?
a bad rep just based on how he played in Philly, but yeah, he's a free agent, man. If the Raptors really want him, throw the bag at him.
Okay, so like, so the ceiling stuff.
Oh, man, imagine Tobias Harris, a Raptor, Fab's head would explode.
What's a Tobias Harris contract look like?
Probably 30s, easily.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know,
yeah.
go long, like maybe 390,
30s.
I was going to say, like, 4-1-10. Like,
110.
Wow.
I think 30s.
Yeah,
I think
the,
30s.
the
to
new
that.
day, man.
Raptors could open up that room if they wanted it.
He'd probably do like a shorter term contract and a bit bigger, like kind of like a Fred
Yeah.
type of.
Yeah.
so let's get
Bronny James.
yeah, let's put a bow on this draft and talk. Well, actually, wait. I'll make one point on Edey, and I'm talking to Jack Armstrong during March Madness. He said one thing that really stuck out to me, and it was the key to Edey is whoever drafts him, you need to kind of know what you're getting and how to make him work. And there's a lot of bad teams who we often will joke they don't really think things through. And I just hope, as a Canadian, I hope he goes to a good team
To a
who's
good
really
place,
thought through how to use him. And I feel like Memphis is
Yeah.
a good example of that. I think
We-
Memphis would be a good fit
I
for
mean,
him.
like we already name dropped that earlier, right? So I think the best example is just look at how much more effective Jaren Jackson Jr. was when Steven Adams was around. It actually was. It completely changed how they were as a team, right? Edey probably could fit and step into that role, especially if you think about how similar their builds are, right? The difference is Edey's actually showing that he might actually be able to develop a little bit of a shot from 3-point. And like that could change things up big time compared to a guy like Steven Adams.
That rebounding, screen setting, like John Morant, like, hey, Zach,
Yeah.
set me a screen.
Just
wipe
large
this guy
body,
out.
yeah.
But he also did that with Steven Adams. I
Yes.
think to me, any team that knows how to like weaponize him, to use him, to unleash him, not rely on him to play 30 minutes.
No, he's like an 18 to 22 minute a game guy, especially start.
Versatility. You could throw him on, the opposing team's big, waste 5-6 fouls like that. Like I think, and he's only been playing basketball for like what 6-7 years, something like that. So his growth is going to be pretty exponential. Ideally, he ends up on a team that has the right system in place for him. Ideally, a perimeter scoring threat.
Yeah, I
You
think
could use him off the screen.
Yeah, I think to your point, he needs to land in the right ecosystem
Yeah.
with a good coaching staff. I mean, even somewhere like OKC.
Thunder.
Oh,
What if
God, yeah.
with,
Yep,
with what
exactly.
they've done
You
with
hear
their
a lot
shooting
about
on
that,
everybody? What if he develops a 3-point shot? I mean, he's decent from free throw, right? So I think he can have a very productive career if he lands in the right spot because he's still 7'4". He's a rim protector.
I play for Canada.
He was unstoppable at the college level, like shooting like high 60s field goal percentage. Like,
And they restricted him too. Like he
Yes.
wasn't able to do specific things.
well, the college defense is built towards stopping that too.
And if we're talking about, our friends at FanDuel have odds on where Edey can get drafted, I mean, he's plus money to be a lottery pick, which
We've dabbled.
in this draft where no one's really standing out that much, like doesn't some team just say, you know what,
There's gonna be-
let's just
Pick a flyer?
take this guy, right? Because who are you really passing
I mean,
up
it's
on?
also an interesting note too, like the state of the NBA. We see these ebbs and flows of what positions are valuable.
Big man's back.
Big man's are
It
back.
is, yes.
Big man's are back. And the reality is, a team like OKC, that's what they lacked, right? Now, obviously, they lost to Dallas. That's like, so be it. But if they face Minnesota and Denver, I think they might have faced an even worse fate. So they need that sort of kind of matchup to go against some of the best players in the NBA.
If you're gonna bet Edey to be a lottery pick, you're praying for Donovan Clingan to be taken early.
Yes.
And then if Edey's kind of freed up around like 6, 7, 8, assuming Clingan's taken before that,
Top 10 would be crazy. That'd be
there's a
awesome.
chance.
But like that,
there is a chance
Go to
that
the
bet
world.
cashes. There is
Yeah.
a good chance.
I mean, like we talk about the state of this draft, like it rings a lot of Anthony Bennett type drafts, right? Where like the talent pool's so weak that I don't think it's fair to say what's gonna happen. Anything. can happen in this
It's
draft.
not weak. It's just not top heavy.
Okay, looking at later in the draft, then the name on everybody's board, Bronny James. Like,
Most bet on.
yeah,
So popular.
I'll start here. Like,
NIL.
do we think there's a chance? Is there a chance he goes in the first round? I don't see it.
There should not be a chance. I mean, there's always a chance.
It would be really embarrassing if he does, but it's like it'd be the ultimate like chess move. Like, oh, we want LeBron.
Yeah,
We're gonna
Bill
hold him
Simmons
hostage.
said something similar.
Yeah, so
right?
there's no other practical reason. It's just I kind of feel stupid
and
talking about it, to be
This
honest.
is the question we're going to ask Jack Armstrong Wednesday as well when TSN does his draft coverage. If his last name wasn't James, if he was not LeBron James's son, would his acumen, his prototype, what he's done so far, would that get enough hype for someone like him to go first?
He'd be undrafted.
But here's the thing, though.
said it.
Undrafted.
If there's that morsel of a chance that you can get LeBron, like if
But
Philly,
that was a question. Like, is his last name different?
if
Yeah,
Philly,
but you're
Miami,
saying
or
if LeBron
OKC
is
draft
attached to
him,
it.
Yeah.
then everyone's going to be speculating like crazy.
Well,
say
look-
he goes late. Say, someone trades up the last pick in the first round, and it's Philly, it's Miami, or it's OKC.
I'm not here to on prospects, right? Like I hope he does have a good career. I think he's got the DNA, like the genetics of one of the
It's
greatest
just
players of all time.
as a casual college hoops fan who only will pretty much watch the tourney now, it's hard to look at his USC stats and be like, oh yeah, this is a first rounder.
4.8 points per game,
God.
2.8 boards per game, 2.1 assists per game, shot 36% from the field, 67 from free
But
throw.
what about his intangibles?
Boom?
Yeah.
Intangibles.
What
right?
about
Like-
his bloodline, man?
Yeah,
Bloodline,
exactly.
right?
You can't measure that.
Like, okay, going back to your question.
Scouting report, great genes inherited from
What do you
father.
want? Okay,
Last
so-
name, James.
Yeah. Last name change? Come on, man. Like, that's so disrespectful.
I think to me,
right?
it's like, if you're saying the attached nugget to it is that LeBron will also sign with you. So Rich Paul pretty much poo-pooed that already. Like he's not signing for the minimum. So teams like Phoenix, that's out the window. So you're gonna if a team comes along that has the cap space to also sign.
That's why I said
LeBron,
Philly. Like, what if?
I just
No,
think
wait,
he's leaving
hold
LA.
on. JJ Redick was announced as Lakers coach.
Yeah.
LeBron is staying in LA. That whole thing was a job interview.
Mind the game.
yeah.
That whole thing was a freaking job
look at the
interview.
game.
I think the important point here is like, considering his body of work, you have to remember how many other hard-working, athletic, like talented players are at the college level. It's disrespectful to all these other people that work that hard to try to make it to the NBA,
mean,
right?
Well, he works hard.
No, but look at what he's achieved so far.
I know.
I think
like,
your argument's one against nepotism.
No, but you get my point, right? Like you're saying, like, would he be drafted? No, he's not gonna be drafted. Come on, like let's be really realistic.
How's that
about
different
this.
from like a kid that was born into like supreme wealth and then gets inherited like the CEO job with like his father?
And
I
that's
mean,
why there's so much discord about this, right? It's like there are all these other players in the NCAA right now that are so much more deserving.
Life ain't fair, man.
Well, there you go. And so, but that's fair too,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Okay,
that's the point.
so then if you're saying Fab's convinced, and I don't know, I don't want to believe that LeBron's staying yet, but it likely is. I think it's like, what is it, minus 400 on
FanDuel said-
FanDuel?
Minus 480.
Minus 480 on FanDuel. Odds are going to change. Now, does that mean, do we want to explore the team to draft Bronny market, which I think you said the Lakers are plus 100. So,
55th pick.
It adds up.
It adds up.
Now, you know what?
no, if you could parlay those, FanDuel.
Come on.
Give us the tease.
Come
Let
on,
us
man.
parlay.
If I'm the Lakers, I think it's actually a very smart business move. Like, you want LeBron, you want to secure LeBron's rights back into LA, draft his son, 55th pick in the draft. Like, you went on the whole, tangent about like second round picks, very few actually make
Yeah.
it. Why not? I think it's actually a prudent business move on their part. I would draft him if I'm the Lakers at 55.
Hey, at the end of the day, you got to protect your most important assets. Why does the NASA's?
Yeah, I was just going to say,
yeah.
Giannis's bro, same thing.
There's
I
no
think
there's
that's
no
what you
harm if the Lakers take him at 55.
Yeah, it's like it's not like this, but it's similar to when the Clippers poached Kawhi from the Raptors, right? Like when you trade for Paul George, you knew you were also getting Kawhi in that, right?
Yeah.
By signing him. So it's just one of those things where it's like, if you want LeBron to stay a Laker, maybe.
But maybe
grease him.
LeBron also doesn't. Maybe
You
that's.
hired his podcast partner. Might as well draft his son too.
But
Might
they
as well.
also tried to hire Dan Hurley first, though. Like,
Didn't they?
yes, they did. They offered Dan Hurley a contract, and
They
Dan
kinda-
Hurley said no.
Kind of lowballed him.
Yeah, well, like, not really though. He would. Well,
Would have been.
I know
Monty
he's one of
Williams
the
got
five
more.
best, yeah.
Monty Williams got more
okay,
than Dan Hurley.
so the dumbest coach contract in the history of coaching
Whoa,
contracts.
whoa, you said it, not me.
Okay. That is, like, I'm pretty sure that's a fact now. He's getting paid $65 million to do nothing.
I'm just saying, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of bad
Yeah,
contracts,
no, Adrian Wojnarowski and his connection to the Hurley family had nothing to do with that. But continue.
hey, they still offered it to him.
Yeah, sure.
And he still said no.
Fair enough.
It's like
All right.
it's an invitation.
Fair enough.
So speaking of dumb money,
Hey,
we got free agency right around the corner.
Oh, great
Let's
segue.
go. let's look at this from a Raps perspective.
Yeah.
First of all, we were talking before. We all think quickly for sure, probably 25 mil a year, and then
is he'll be re-signed. Yeah.
we all expect Scotty Barnes to be extended at
He's
some
extension
point.
eligible.
Yeah, and what's going to happen this summer? So from a Raptors perspective, that leaves pretty much one man who's TBD, and Fab. You can the floor can be yours here on what they do with Gary Trent.
Listen, man. I don't like him. Okay, what kind of contract are we talking about?
Gary Trent probably like what 20, 25.
Okay, so hold on. Before we go there, they have a decision to make on Bruce Brown, whether to pick up his team option.
I think you have.
I think
to
that's
pick up-
almost automatic.
Yeah, you have
so
to.
you
It
pick
is.
up his team option, then
To
that
deal
leaves
him though.
You have to trade him at the
Yeah,
deadline, of course.
Potentially.
But there's still
Or
some
they keep
value
him
to
for
keeping
culture.
that guy around, right?
So with that, then they'll.
He was
have,
an important player in a championship team
Yeah.
like a year ago.
Yeah.
Like people forget that.
yeah.
If they keep him, then there's they're gonna have much less money to spend on others, so you'll be incentivized to keep some of your own. So Gary Trent Jr. is 25 years old, free agent, one of the best shooters in the league.
What was that? I believe West touted an unbelievable
Oh,
stat.
man, I feel so bad because I can't reference who said it exactly, but Gary Trent, #1 in the NBA in open 3-point percentage at 52% this season. Fab.
Sounds like a guy I want to keep.
Oh yeah.
That's an asset I don't want to lose
We're
for
going
free.
with
What value is there in? Okay, do you think he's a positive asset? The teams weren't looking for him at the trade deadline. Who was knocking on the door for Trent?
I think in the right
Nobody.
situation, you can find a way to make that work.
He's a great 3-point shooter. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's it. I don't know what else he does well.
He dresses really nice.
He's not. Listen. He's a little bit small for a guard. He's not. He's not super athletic. He's not a willing passer. He kind of gets cooked defensively. I'd rather just see minutes go to Grady Dick.
Of course.
At this point, right?
So I agree with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Of course.
here. So let's assume he led the league in steals a couple years ago under Nick Nurse.
That doesn't mean he's a good defensive
No, it
player.
doesn't.
No,
It
but that's a
doesn't.
stat.
But
But in that gambler system, he
Yes.
thrived.
Yes.
You're able to get the best out of him in
Yeah.
a system that plays to his strengths. Although we would say that a couple times he cost the Raptors late by making
Of course.
bad decisions.
Yes.
But you live with that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just saying that if you surround him with good defenders, like let's say Orlando strikes out on Klay Thompson.
You're right. Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
In
he
that kind of
slides Trent in.
ecosystem, I agree.
So you're
Trent
saying-
could be useful, but the Raps aren't built that way.
Okay, so you're saying this is I think more of an argument against the Raptors ecosystem.
Yes,
whether he fits.
it is.
Now you just have another guy who's relatively soft defensively.
Yes.
Who can shoot, but you need more of a defensive structure for him to slide.
So,
I agree.
But then, Fab, don't you just keep the asset though, and then try to trade him? And I know you're going to say they
It's
tried
not-
to do those guys,
but,
they
just
couldn't move
okay,
him.
it depends. If you think he's a positive asset and on a positive deal, then sure, you make the argument for
Losing
keeping
him for nothing.
You're
Okay,
telling
well,
me you're
no,
going to give this guy 3 years, 75
No, I'm
mil?
saying, like,
Like,
no,
is
it's
that a
like
good
250.
deal?
I think this is what it comes down to is what is the fair market value for what he's going to be worth in
he might get
and to be fair, it's a wide range of where it could go.
Yeah.
so
Right? Like, I have no idea what he even is supposed to be making.
I mean,
at
look,
this
I
point.
agree with Hein. It's like if you get him on a cheap contract, then yeah, he is
Sure,
considered a
yes,
positive asset.
exactly.
So if we overpay, then you're in trouble, right?
Again, we're using these terms like cheap, overpay. Like, and I get that right now.
Fair market value.
The cap,
25 is probably fair
the
market value.
cap is going to skyrocket. So a lot of these like $20 million deals are going
Hold
to
on,
be drops
but
in the bucket.
It's not going to skyrocket like it did Durant to Golden State.
No. Over
It's going to
time. Over time.
gradually go up year by
cap
year.
smoothing.
If they could sign and trade him, I think that would be the best outcome.
Yes.
I just don't think the Raptors are into losing assets for nothing. So
Yeah.
they traded Norm Powell for him once upon a time. I just don't know if they let him walk.
Yeah,
Like,
they
Fred.
won't. They probably won't. He's probably back.
I think he's back.
Realistically, he's probably back.
So
I think
then,
he's back.
right,
If
if-
you pick up Bruce Brown's option, you're going to have just like the mid-level to play with. And you
So
know.
here's the only thing is if you do let him walk, what is the alternative with the limited cap space that you
So
have?
it-
There's not much.
So they can do a lot of different things, right? So if they were to trade Bruce Brown, have him opt in, trade him right away, they can do a lot of stuff. You know, pull up the graphic. There are some players out there that I like, that I'm actually intrigued by. I think the Raptors, you know, we talked about it, right? The Raptors pride themselves on being, in the past anyway, defensive, switchable forwards. They lost 2 of them in trades this season. I think they need to kind of build back in that route. I think they're a little weak defensively. I think we can all
Oh, they're very weak.
right? Like they're relatively they got guys who can shoot more. They have a little more offense, but guys like Najee Marshall, you know, unrestricted free agent, probably gonna be a big market for him. Isaac Okoro, restricted free agent in Cleveland. I think he's super interesting. You have like D'Anthony Melton. I know you're a big fan of
I
him.
do like him,
26
yes.
years old. That's
Back's a
guard.
bit of a question this year, but
Yeah,
Kinda,
well, injury concerns there, but there are dudes. Pat Williams out of
I got a question.
Chicago.
So I agree. I think they need a little more iron on this team, a little more
So
scrappiness.
if you can
Yeah.
lose Trent, but free enough room to make a run at someone like that,
Yes.
in my opinion, again,
Yeah.
this is only our opinion. We're not saying, hey, Masai, do this, but that's
if
the
we
kind of
did,
player,
he'd listen.
oh, he should. So like and subscribe, Masai. but like but you know what I'm saying? Like those are the type of players I'm looking at. I'm a little, my favorite player in the draft is Ron Holland because I think he's not favorite, but like monster defensively. I like those kind of guys. And I think the Raptors need some more gumption.
So just real quick, what does this mean though? Is next year a tanking year? Like
think-
it kind of has to be, right? So
I think they're going to go into the season trying to compete for the play-in, trying to compete for a playoff spot, and then maybe something like what happened this past season. If you are down, if you're like 10 games under 12, you flick the switch.
Hey, they were trying to compete this season.
Yeah, they were trying, and then they failed, and then they I think made the right moves. Benching guys. I know guys got hurt. I think that's what you do again because Cooper Flag's right there. Looks pretty generational in terms of like I'll go all the videos.
The right thing to do would be to tank again.
Yeah.
That's the right
Give it-
thing.
give
to
it a
do.
shot.
Doesn't mean that's what they're going to do,
Yeah, it's
but
a hard sell.
Give it a shot.
get it.
Like
But-
you have Scotty, you have Emmanuel Quickly, got RJ Barrett, full season, Darko Rakovic, training camp, knowing who's on the team.
exactly. And I said this last year when they made those deals is at the very least I need to see an identity formed with the guys you have.
Yeah.
Like establish a style of play, how you want to operate as a team. Do that at least, and let's see what happens with the wins and losses. But
Yeah, it's not
you
about
need to
winning this
develop younger guys.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with winning this year, like you said.
Yeah.
It's all about building.
I think
culture.
see what you got. See what you
Yeah.
got. And again, like we haven't really seen all these guys healthy for a long period of time, right? Like, Pirtle got hurt last year. Now you got Pirtle and Kelly Olynyk right
Yeah.
behind him. Pretty good. Pretty good as a 5 position. But I
Lacks
think they need-
athleticism though,
very much so.
right?
So I
That-
think that's
yeah,
what
but
you
if
need
he's
to
if he's
add
your backup big who
Could
can
the
play
Raps
25
not-
minutes and like hit some
You
I
need
know,
threes.
but
that.
could the Raps not use like a real rim running type of center
potentially.
who can jump?
So, but there's
Like-
That'd be nice.
but then there'll be a market for Olynyk. Someone will.
Oh, I
want
like
Olynyk for
the
sure,
Olynyk
yeah.
deal was nice.
They got
I like the Olynyk
extension,
deal. I have no
tradable
problem with that. Yeah.
contracts. I just think you need some more tough forward types. Isaac Okoro, someone if you can pry him away from Cleveland, 3-point numbers are actually pretty decent. He's 23 years old. I liked him at Auburn. Like I think he's interesting. He fits like kind of the timeline.
It is a certain
the team.
profile that
Fits
they
the
could use.
defense.
Yeah.
There's someone like
Yeah.
that. If you're gonna lose someone like Gary Trent, but can add a piece that plus the draft picks, if they're all these kind of forward athletic types,
Yeah.
I think that's good. And you go into next season with a pretty solid outlook.
So now, sorry, go ahead, Wes.
Shout out Ryan Dunn. That's it.
Like him too.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Like him too.
Let's finish up then with I think the other big free agency domino is just Philly. Philly, and what does Philly do to kind of what is Philly's move? And I know Paul George. It seems like they've kind of cooled. There's a lot of reports that they're
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, like Harden is Paul George's teammate, right? So like he's gonna tell PG about how much he hates Daryl Morey. Like that's a natural thing. I don't know, man. Maybe Paul George just opts in and they trade him. So like Clippers get something out of that. Maybe they re-signed Tobias Harris.
Marks and Lowe, they were trying to do the math of Jimmy and Paul George, and I think the numbers were so close, but just second apron stuff.
Jimmy's an interesting wild card that's kind of floating out there because I don't think he's untradeable if you're Miami.
Oh, man, Jimmy to OKC would be so, oh my God, that would be so
There's
nice.
tons of rumblings that Miami is they're on the move.
That's interesting, man. I think to me, like, what if Philly goes the route and says, you know what? We can't go big game hunting. Some of the big guys don't want to come here. We don't want to give up assets. Maybe they go hard at like Caldwell Pope. They just get a lot of these.
KCP's a guy they've been linked to, which I mean, he would fit.
Just anyone who's just like, oh, let's just surround Maxey and Embiid with a bunch of two-way guys.
And that also gives you flexibility too. That if you can go big game hunting for a trade later on, you have the flexibility to do.
Do they want to re-sign like Melton? Kelly Oubre is going to be on a higher contract. Like you're going to have to how do you allocate all of this money now? Nicholas Batum, you have to re-sign him too. Like all of a sudden now. That money goes pretty quick. They don't have many guys under contract at this moment, so they can go many directions. I do agree. Like, I think Paul George is the ultimate domino here. He is by far the most prized person in free agency. Like
LeBron.
Come on. Depends who drafts Bronny.
All right, man. All right. Is that it? We done?
Hey man, I just want to live in a world where I just want one story of Heat think that they can get LeBron, and then I'm back.
It would be fun.
We're officially back if we get that. On that note, we'll be back probably talking Olympics mid July. We'll be back to talk Olympics because this Canada team is good enough to medal.
Has to be talked about.
Yeah, so we'll be back to talk some Canada and some Olympics mid July.